we get started, I want to give you a quick heads up. In this episode, we'll be touching on topics which might be sensitive or triggering for some listeners. Please take care of yourself as you listen and feel free to pause, skip ahead, or come back when you're ready. Your well being is always a priority, and if you need, please feel free to reach out at hello@charwongrichardson.com. Welcome back to the Char Hotline. I have a very, very special first guest, and it's Ressel, a transformation coach and belief code practitioner. She's my life coach. She does energy healing, energy clearing, and readings, and it's just a beautiful human who's doing amazing work in the world. And we met through Hey Boo and truly just wanting to support each other and uplift each other. I personally, selfishly, just want her to take me under her wing. She is just amazing, and a mama and a badass. And you know what? I want you to just kind of give everyone, the listeners, a highlight summary of who you are. What do you want them to know about you as we jump into today's conversation?
Thank you, first of all, for having me on your podcast. Your first guest, what an honor. Who I am, I'm no different than you. No different than any other person that is listening to this. But what makes me extraordinary is that I chose to live a life I love. And so what I do as part of my life and transformation work is I noticed, because I've been coaching for the past almost 11 years now, right? And what I noticed is there was a gap. I could give the tools to my clients, right? We could create action steps, but they don't always follow those action steps. So I really started diving deep into why. What makes them different over those other people that have been coached and that they're accelerating, right? But they're not. They're staying stagnant. And I recognized that it was the fears that were really controlling their situation. So I started exploring the quantum physics of it and tapping into the subconscious beliefs. And that's when I got certified in emotion code, body code, and the belief code. And once I started implementing that in the coaching, every action step that they were supposed to take, it's done, right? Because if they didn't, guess what? That following week, what we would be healing is that. But the biggest thing is, I believe that I could live my best life, right? I believe that I was worthy of that, but it wasn't always the case. In the beginning, I really doubted that I could ever achieve that until I started healing myself. And now, really, literally, in a matter of probably 3 to 6 months, my world changed.
That's beautiful. I could have you on the show forever, which, I mean, we might be. There's some collab coming up, maybe. But why I really wanted you on the show for February, for Love Month, which I love and hate this Valentine's Day thing. It's commercialized and get off my DEI pedestal. But I wanted you to talk about self-love, of course, but in the context of breakups. Mm-hmm. When to know when to leave, and then how to heal after a breakup.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I thought I'd really want you in live, because I think a lot of people can resonate with that. And you and I have talked about this, right? We have to have that foundation of self-love as an individual to then attract the right partner, and then also then to show up within relationships to ourselves, with others, romantic or platonic, as our true selves, because then we can advocate for ourselves and not let fear hold us back from communicating our needs.
Right.
So tell us, you have a very powerful story, so I would love to share your story.
Yes, absolutely. So, gosh, when was this? I was been married for quite a while. This is actually my second marriage. My first marriage, I'm going to be very honest. As you can see, I'm Asian, right? Shocking. I'm Filipino, and I'm not a nurse. That's shocking. And from an Asian background, maybe you can attest to this, is your parents, they mean well, right? But there is a sense of wanting to have control over you, control over your life, control over your choices. And I got married for the wrong reasons. I got married so I could leave. So I could leave my home, so that I could be out from underneath my parents' thumb, right? And so that marriage didn't last more than maybe 5 years. But out of that, I was able to have 2 beautiful sons from that. And I was a single mom for quite a few years. And then I met I'm going to call him my future ex-husband. because we are separated. And that's kind of a weird thing, but we are in that process of going through a divorce. And when I met him, I was I was a different person. What I wanted to have was a life that I thought I wanted at the time, which was, again, I'm going to age myself, like the times of the Brady Bunch and Leave It to Beaver, right? I wanted to be June Cleaver vacuuming the floor, wearing her pearls and her hair all beautiful, right? Because that's what I wanted, because I didn't live that life. I grew up very, very poor. And when I say poor, I think Oprah says we were po, right? We had like nothing. So to have that kind of life, I would have loved to just be a stay-at-home mom. And my future ex-husband, he was able to give me that, right? And what I learned over the years, because we were married for, gosh, long time, almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I started to evolve. I started to change because there was a point where my kids started growing up, right? And going to college, and they didn't need me as much. And the label that I put on myself was mom, right? Like, you know this, you've got kids too, right? And when that label of mom gets put away, who are we in the end? We start searching. We start understanding, what am I here to do? And I realized that I poured so much love into them and my family that I didn't pour enough love into me, right? So when I started embarking on that journey to really understand who I was, who I am, and started loving me and pouring back into me, I started to elevate and I started to change. I started my transformation, right? My heroine's journey. And unfortunately, my future ex-husband didn't want to do the same. He liked where he was at. And there's no judgment, no criticism over that, right? And as I started my spiral of becoming, I noticed that our connection was further and further apart, right? And there were moments where I would stop my own growth because I didn't want to leave him behind. And I know that there's a lot of people that do that, right? I'm sure you've done that. And when I would stop my growth, I started to resent him. I started to say, you know what, I'm holding myself back because you're not growing. And so there was a lot of anger towards him. And there was, I decided, I'm going to keep moving forward because I got to love me first, right? I got to put that oxygen mask on me, because if I don't love me first, I'm not going to be able to love on anyone else. And unfortunately, he didn't want to love himself enough to move forward. And I look at this situation not as, gosh, another divorce, a second divorce. I look at this one as a completion. We completed what we were supposed to do together. We raised, we have three, my two kids from a previous marriage, and then we have one son together. We did what we were supposed to do, and we raised three amazing boys. And we are doing what we're meant to do. And just because a divorce happens in the end doesn't mean it was a failure. It just means it was a completion, and then we get to move on. And so, that's kind of what I'm going through right now. And I honor that. I learned so much from him. He was a great teacher for me. And he gave me the opportunity to evolve. And I'm going to honor and accept his journey, whatever that is for him.
Thank you for sharing so openly and honestly, but also, this, but I think it's so beautiful the way you can see it as, not a failure, because I can't speak from experience from a divorce, but from anything else in life, what we typically historically conventionally will feel as a failure. Mm-hmm. I love that you said it's a completion of a chapter. Yeah. And you achieved what you were set out to do as a partnership between your future ex-husband, right? But it's so beautiful. I mean, the work that it took, and the healing that you did to get to that point, to see that, and then to not come with resentment and negative feelings and emotions around that, and that's so beautiful. beautiful. And that's a gift in itself that, I mean, that you gave yourself to be able to have that mindset.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Not to say that it was easy
Yeah,
by
no, of
any
course.
means, right? Like there were battles, like hardcore battles for sure. And what I learned in that process is I think the reason why there were those arguments is because I was still trying to make him what I wanted him to be, right? And I was fighting for that. The moment I surrendered to his journey is when I started to shift. And our relationship started to shift in a way that it was no longer a fight. There was no more arguments. It was a lot of allowing, to us, for us to do whatever it is that we wanted to do and to be. And so if I could offer any tips for anyone out there that is maybe going through some challenges with their partner is to just honor them where they're at, right? And be okay with that, regardless of what that looks like, because at the end it's them, it's their journey, right? And when that happened, we became better friends from it. So I know that once this is completed, that we will always still be in contact, that we will still be friends throughout this thing. And that really is a testament to how much I love me and that I want me to be happy.
I love that. Yeah, I always say, I love me. I was like, it's sassy, and but it epitomizes, encompasses what it is, right? And yeah, going back, what came up for me when you were telling your story was, yeah, the labels. I think I'm almost on the opposite. I don't, good or bad. I defy the mom label. Like, I was at my corporate job and I was pregnant with my second and going on to my second mat leave. People were like, congratulations, congratulations. Like, they were, and then something came up where, like, they thought I was, like, a first-time mom. And I was like, oh, no, I already have another kid. And they're like, you've worked here for how many years and we didn't even know you had a kid?
Oh my God.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't really talk about it. Like,
Right,
she's there.
right,
She's
right.
alive and well. Like,
She's okay.
yeah, so I kind of defy it, but almost to an unhealthy way, I think sometimes, which is my process and my journey. And then with that, with, meeting people where they're at and being okay with it. But then what came up for me was abandoning. I remember my partner and I did struggle a lot when we had our first. It got dark. And, we learned about grieving the loss of our pre-kid individual lives, but also as a partner and as a couple. And then, yeah, then I think when I started to find joy in the journey and started to enjoy parts of being a mother, then I was like, there was this weird thing, and it was my own work. I had to do that. I realized I felt worried abandoning my partner if he wasn't where I was at yet.
Okay.
So I almost wasn't, like, allowing myself to enjoy it, even though I was starting. It was like shameful. Like, I'm enjoying motherhood, but you're still hating parenthood. Like, how do we?
Right.
So it's been a lot of couples counseling, a lot of, like, yeah, that inner work as individuals to heal our own shit, and then to come together and meet each other where we're at. Yeah. And how do we make it work and navigate that? We'll never be right at the same spot.
No.
So that's what came up for me, was like the abandonment, but then also acknowledging and being aware of self-abandonment. So do I abandon myself and enjoy being a mom now? Like, I one time said at night, I was like a pillow talk, and I was like, I was like, I don't know why I haven't gone, something about my business. I was like, I don't know why I've kind of, like, procrastinated or something. He's like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if he was serious or he was joking or what his thing was, but he was like, I don't know, maybe you've just been, like, enjoyed being a mom lately. And I was so offended, I cried.
No, you didn't. Oh my
He's
God.
like, you're such a psycho. Like,
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you say I enjoy being a mother?
Take those back. Those
Poor
are
dude.
words.
The, like, ups and downs of my life.
So funny.
But right, like, the self-abandonment too, right, is a big piece within that self-love and relationship. So I want to go, like, I love that story. Appreciate you sharing that you had to take care of you.
Yeah.
How are there, like, key moments or incidents or catalysts that you can think of when you knew it was over? Like a 20-year marriage. That's
Yeah.
like,
Here's the thing was there really one catalyst? I don't know. There were always red flags throughout the whole thing, right? And I just had a conversation with somebody about red flags and how we try to justify those red flags, right? Because we so badly want to hold on to something, that we ignore those red flags. And I think where it started for me that I can remember is, because probably about 2 years after my third child was born, I had a miscarriage. And it was my first one. It was rough because I say her because I really felt that was my daughter, right? Because I have three boys and I was like, this is going to be the little girl, right? And I carried her for about almost the first trimester. And I remember on Thanksgiving Day, I started bleeding. And fortunately, in my family, there is a nurse, and she was there at Thanksgiving dinner, and she saw I was having a miscarriage. And it was bad. It was, I'm not going to give all the gory details, but I lost her, and I was grieving. I was grieving that loss. And even though, not even completed my first trimester, I think I was probably like 2 months into the grieving process, and I didn't have anybody to talk to at the time. But I remember him saying to me, it's been 2 months, you need to just get over it. And I was mortified. I was like, you're telling me to just get over this, right? Like, maybe you don't understand what women go through. It's a lot of hormones going on, right? And that really stood out for me. And when he said that, I started to question the relationship and ask, is this how I want to live my life? Where I don't feel seen, where I don't feel heard. And no judgment on him, right? Like, he's got his own thing that he went through. We all have our own traumas, especially as Asians, right? More traumas
What
than
did I saw somewhere once is like Asian parents don't charge us rent to live in their house, but they charge us in trauma because in the therapy you're gonna have to pay for later.
exactly. There's a cost to that. Just pay the $900 that they want, or whatever that is. Just pay it, because they're gonna get the money they're gonna get it from you somewhere. And so he's got, he had his own upbringing, right? His own challenges that he went through, and probably because his parents would say the same thing, like, just get over it, like, move on, dude, right? Like, you're a man, get over it, just, man up. And I thought, you know what? No, this doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. And I think that was really the pinnacle moment where I chose to recognize those red flags and do something about it. And so for many years, I just kind of went with the flow, right? I did what I was supposed to do, show up as, the wife or the mother, but still I wore that mask. I wore that label. And then maybe probably 3-4 years ago, I'm like, F the mask, just took it off. And he was not happy with that, because he wanted me to stay the same. He wanted everything the same, but I didn't want the same. I wanted better, right? And I was willing to give up the good for the great, and he didn't want to do
What did
that.
that look like when you took the mask off? What did that look like and show up as?
That was rough, because there were moments where I would put the mask back on, right? Because it got too hard, and I didn't like the fights, right?
Mm.
So in the beginning, when you first take that mask off, it's scary. And then that fear, those paradigms show up, like, oh, can I really do this? Is it really safe to be me? That kind of thing. And so I put the mask back on and take it off, put it back on, right? It was this dance with the mask. And then at one point, I just said, you know what? I don't want the mask at all. And we're going to go through those moments. We're going to go through that spiral where we step in and out of who we truly are, right? But the more you feel out of alignment, the more you want to stay in alignment. It's that contrast, right? It's that feeling where it feels, in the beginning, it felt yucky to not wear the mask, but now it feels even yuckier to wear the mask. Right? I don't know if that makes any sense, if I'm even saying it eloquently enough, but that's, hopefully you get my gist.
Yeah, but there's like bridge between that, right? To get there, to feel that.
Yes.
What top tips or tools or takeaways would you say to make that discernment of
Mm.
when to leave a
Mm.
relationship or partnership that isn't in alignment anymore?
Yeah. What I would say is notice your discontent. What areas are you feeling that discontent and also the longing? And really ask yourself, what would I love? What would I love to feel each moment? And then identify, are you feeling that now? Right? Because if this is what you want to feel, but this is how you're feeling, address what it is. Why aren't you feeling that way? Right? I think leaning into that and doing more of what it is that you love is really going to change how you are and how you are in the relationship. Like he's great on his own, I'm great on my own. Together we're just not great, and that's okay. That's totally okay. And in the beginning he wanted to fight that, and I did too, right? But I think there was more arguments for staying as opposed to leaving. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think those would be my tips, is just really leaning into your longing, discontent, asking yourself what you would love, and asking yourself, why aren't you feeling that?
Like, 'cause there's just so much safety, right? And I always think of like the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary. It's scary. What if I never find someone? It's like, but who cares if you find someone or not? You have you.
Exactly.
You can give yourself that safety. I'm
Yes.
like on the opposite, not opposite, but like a different spectrum and season and like my love story versus your love story,
Mm-hmm.
because I had gone through so many crappy dating relationships.
Uh-huh.
And then I had my own sexual assault trauma at 17 that I did a lot of my own healing to
Mm-hmm.
get me to a point where I was like, no more mass. I was like, no mass, because I realized all these guys were trying to change me. And like literally one said, tame me. And I was like, what am I, an animal? Like, because I'm just like, oh, I'm too loud. I'm too, I'm intimidating. But I got to a point where I was like, I'd rather be, and I like, even like, I remember, I don't think it was Google back in the day, but looking up, like, why do people have romantic partnerships? Like, why do people have a spouse? Like, what's the point? And I got to the point where I'd rather be alone and single,
Mm-hmm.
but have full control of my own destiny and happiness
You.
than to just have a man or a person, a partner, just to have them for optics or whatever it was, for like, a companion, but then not be seen and not be heard and not be truly me. So I've
Exactly.
thankfully, when I finally got my shit together and did that, I then manifested and attracted my first healthy romantic partner who I've been with. We've been together for 11, 12 years. And I've never had that mass.
Yeah.
Blessing and a curse,
No, that's good.
especially with my in laws.
Oh my
But
God. That's a podcast, separate
that's a whole other.
podcast.
But right, she like, I was like, I don't need no man. And he used to get offended. But then now I'm like, but I choose you. We complement each other and we
Yeah.
make each other better and we
Mhm.
support each other. I choose you. I choose to have you in my life because I don't need you. I don't need you to take care of me. I don't like, it's nice, but like, I don't need you. He's
Yeah.
like, okay, okay, I kind of get it. And now, thankfully, with what I do now, he kind of gets it more.
But how, I mean, I honor your journey, right? To have that kind of freedom, right? From that. Like most people think that they have to be in a relationship in order to feel complete, in order to feel whole. That's how I felt too in the beginning. I felt like I needed somebody to complete me, right? And I've changed that narrative in my mind. Instead of wanting someone to complete me, I would invite someone to compliment me, right? To elevate me, that kind of thing, because I'm already whole and complete and you are already whole and complete. I just want somebody that's going to enhance what I already have.
And
I
I
don't.
mean, it doesn't help with media and movies and parents and society and culture, right? Like, I think my dad even asked me like 2 or 3 years after breaking up with some dude, was like, "Oh, where's that guy?" I was like, "He could take care of you. He's a cop." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Why do I need someone to take care of me?" But
Exactly.
that's like the Chinese dad was like, I just need someone to take care of my kid, my girl, my
Hmm.
daughter, right?
Yeah.
And so that's ingrained in us. And then I'm not going to go into this systemic oppression and like
Hmm.
patriarchy, but
Right.
right, it's how we were conditioned and programmed.
Yes,
So it's
exactly.
so hard
Exactly.
to break free from that.
Yeah, and I see too, because I have an aunt, whatever, however you want to say it, an aunt, who has been single for many, many years, right? And whenever I talk to the rest of my family, they're like, "You don't want to be like Auntie so and so. She's alone." And I'm like, "I'd rather be like Auntie so and so, and then I get to make my own choices without asking for permission." Right. And that was a thing too, is I want to just do what I want. I just want to do me. I just want to do what I want to do when I want to do it and not have to tell anybody. Right. Because as a little girl, I mean, I had to raise my younger brother when I was like 5 or 6 years old, because we were so poor that my parents had to work, a couple jobs. And so after school, I had to raise my brother who was 6 years old. So I've always had to take care of somebody since I was six. Now I'm 52 and I don't want to take care of anybody. I just want to take care of me.
Hmm.
Right. And just shedding that responsibility. And I think that's what was ingrained in us as kids too. Maybe it's culturally, but we always had to take care of somebody else, especially if you were female. If you're the
Hmm.
girl, you had to take care of your brothers and sisters. You have to take care of your mom and dad. You have to take care of the guests when they come over, right? We're always pouring into everybody else, but they never teach us to pour back into us.
Yeah.
And so you're so lucky that you learn that at a
And it was not for my Asian immigrant parents, by the way. They did their part. They provided, they did the thing, my cut fruit and fresh fruit,
Right. So
and
funny.
provided for me, yes, the
Yeah.
best they can. But talking and confidence and self-esteem was not a thing. So,
No.
but that's why you and I do the work we do to help
Mhm.
people wherever they're at on their journey
Yeah,
to
exactly.
talk about those things that oftentimes we don't talk enough about,
Mm.
especially as women of color, as women.
Mm-hmm.
With that, with being able to identify when to leave,
Mm-hmm.
how do you then heal after a breakup? Even though you've done so much work to heal to then decide to leave, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like inevitably there'd still be some healing after a breakup.
I don't know that, and I think I feel that I'm different from in the sense of the breakup part, because I'm already doing the healing now because of the work that I do. Right? I'm an energy healer. So as I'm feeling certain things, I'm able to heal those moments, to heal those traumas, to heal those thoughts that go through my head. Because I've had those thoughts too, like, can I survive on my own? I've never been on my own. Am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? Like, what if nobody loves me? And so when those things would come up, I would do the healing on me. And I feel that there's definitely going to be a healing afterwards when I am sitting in my house by myself, because our third son is gone for college. So not only am I going to experience the divorce, the separation, but also now the empty nest, right? Now I'm really going to be on my own. So there's two choices you can make, right? You can either stay in your misery, stay at home, or you can step into your next spiral of becoming to be that next better version of you. So I know that there's going to be some challenges that I've not experienced yet. Definitely will share that with you after it's all complete. But I think the healing is already taking part now, and accepting. I think the acceptance of it has been the hardest part of this experience. And I think once the papers are signed and it's legal, I think that's the thing too, is like when it becomes a legal document in the courts, it's like, whoa, it's done.
The finality of it.
Right, exactly, exactly. So I'm sure I will be feeling the feelings then. So we'll see. Wish me luck.
You got this, and
I
I
got it.
got you. I got you. But you already have those tools that you've already practiced.
Yeah.
With that, as you mentioned a few times that you want to list here, you do a lot of energy work and energy healing. How can someone who's listening that this might resonate with them if they're deciding to leave a relationship or have left a relationship, how can they easily incorporate and integrate some energy work if they're not able or ready yet to do work with someone like yourself within the
Yeah.
energy healing space?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that, well, as far as energy work, just affirmations and really leaning into what it is that they would love to do, or who to be, right? Those kind of emotions. What I would recommend, and it doesn't have anything to do with energy, but just really writing what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like for you, right? And having that as a vision statement where you get to say, I'm so happy and grateful now that I am in the best relationship with myself. And always make you the priority. Love yourself first, right? And here's the thing is like when you love yourself authentically, like for reals, when that person comes into your life, they're going to already be loving themselves too, because you're vibrating on that same frequency, on that same level, right? And so when you write that vision statement about this wonderful relationship that you have with yourself, and that you have this partner that enhances everything that you already have for yourself, you're actually going to be able to attract that person into your life. But whether he or she shows up, it doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter because you are already in your full power, right? And so that's what I would definitely recommend is to twice a day, be the person that is in that loving relationship with herself, and you will find that that person shows up so much faster for you.
And for people who are just tuning in audio, like Ressel and I have the biggest smiles on our faces right now because we both have embodied that. So,
Yes.
like, do the work, people. It's
Yes.
freaking amazing to feel this.
Yeah.
I want, since we're my first guest, but this is what I want to do with all my guests is as we part, is what is, I try to title each of my podcasts with a song, mostly like 90s, early 2000s vibes. Um, what's a song that's your anthem right now?
Oh,
For right now, Ressel, what is your anthem
you
and
know
why?
what I have been listening to? Well, a couple songs. Roar by Katy Perry, right? And also, I don't even know when it was made, but it's called The Warrior. Oh, gosh, Patti Smythe, I think, played The Warrior.
Is this
Um,
before I was born, Ressel?
Probably. Probably. I think it was before I was born too. So I don't even
Okay,
know
I'm
how
gonna
I
look that
found this
up.
out.
We've talked
Yeah,
about this. Warrior. Okay, I'm
really
gonna look
The Warrior. Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure it's Patti Smythe, and I'm not even gonna like screw up your podcast and try to sing it.
sing it.
Okay, no, I'm
Sing it.
not.
Can you sing the
But
Katy Perry one?
no, definitely not. Oh my gosh. But why is because I was silent for so long. Right? Now I'm in my space where I am going to roar and people are going to hear me. Right? And the warrior, I feel like I've always been that warrior. But because of my background, I was never able to show that aspect of me, of being the warrior. I was like a silent warrior. That's what I was. Now I'm a roaring warrior.
I love that. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ressel,
You're
for being
welcome.
my very first guest. And I'm pretty sure this is not the last time we'll be on. So thank you so much. And
You're
thank you for
welcome.
being so open and honest and
Well,
sharing
thank
your story and sharing some tips
you.
for our listeners. And how can we find you? What is the best way to connect with you for anyone who's listening and wanting to connect with
Best
you?
way to connect is to follow me on Instagram, Ressel U. Facebook, Ressel U Consulting. Check me out there. And yeah, watch my videos because they're pretty funny.
They're freaking hilarious. They're freaking hilarious. Yes, we'll make sure the links are in the show notes. So thank you. Thank you again. I really appreciate you. I know we'll be talking a lot more. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, and I'll hear
Thank
you
you.
and catch you on the next podcast.